Think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome. Glad you're with us on this October 31st, 2025. All right, so I just hung up talking with the lead pollster at Rasmussen, which is Mark Mitchell, who you know was at our national conference a few weeks ago. And I asked him, I said, look, do you have any polling with young people and or adults related to the things being said by this Nick Fuentes character? Now, to all of you who don't know who Nick Fuentes is, we did a little bit yesterday, we'll do more today, but he's basically a 20-something, I guess he's agnostic. Am I right, guys? He's not Catholic. Okay, but isn't he also agnostic? Yeah, I know he's a self-proclaimed Catholic, but you're not understanding the question. Doesn't he also describe himself as an agnostic? Well, someone want to research that because I read today he did. But he's not Catholic, okay? This guy is spewing so much racism, cutting off the hands of black people that steal, the racially charged stuff he says about minorities, black people particularly, women, things that are perverted about women, the hatred for Jews, the praising of Hitler, the praising of Stalin. Now, I asked Mark, are you going to do some polling on this? And he said, yes. And I said, when you do, I want to know, because we as Christians, we as constitutionalists, we can't sit here and just complain about Nick Fuentes because he has a very large following. Now, people can argue how big his following is, but he has a big following. And the issue isn't Nick as much as it is, how are we going to respond? That's what I said to Mark Mitchell. I said, Mark, I need to know what the polling data is showing, because we need to hone our message, develop our radio show, develop our TV show, develop our social media clips, push out articles, push out small doses of information to this generation that is addicted to, I hate to say it, 16-minute clips. But some of them obviously will watch something longer if they watch Nick Fuentes, as long as his broadcasts are. So we need to try to explain to young people what is a Christian Zionist, because now Christian Zionism is being so castigated by people like Nick, like Tucker Carlson, and others. And the last thing we need, may I say, is Ted Cruz as our spokesperson, okay? I'm not a fan of Ted Cruz. Does he sometimes say things I like? Yeah. But I've been an opponent of Ted Cruz for a long time. I think it was in my book, Religious Trojan Horse, but certainly The Coming Religious Reich, where I talk about his wife, Heidi, and her position in the banking world and reportedly in the George W. Bush administration, pushing the North American Union. Ted Cruz pushing the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which is basically helping to turn America into another North Union bloc, which his wife apparently was helping to do with the George W. Bush administration and I think it was the 2005 conference in Waco about all that. I don't trust Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz is not a very learned individual. He is not who we want as our spokesperson on Christian Zionism. His father is completely out there in left field on the whole New Apostolic Reformation, modern day prophets. I have played clips in the past about his dad, Raphael, pushing the whole New Apostolic Reformation. We're going to take dominion. So do you really want a guy that's so closely tied? You say, well, he's not responsible for his dad. I know, but he partners with his dad. His dad has been involved heavily and campaigning and going around for his son. So in many regards, Ted Cruz is the exact problem we face today, which is he wants to be a spokesperson apparently for Christian Zionism, but he doesn't even know how to defend it, number one. And number two, well, he doesn't know how to defend it. Because as I said to Mark Mitchell, we have got to explain to these young people, many of them who are America First people, who are watching the financial problems here in America, high interest rates, inflation, unaffordability of homes, jobs, AI is taking over things. They're frustrated and they're looking for a scapegoat. And whenever there's a need for a scapegoat, conveniently, the Jews seem to pop up. And let's blame the Jews. That's what they do. That's historical. That's why so many of them are involved in finances and accounting and banking, etc. Because they couldn't really buy land and develop it, because as soon as they got land and cleared it and plowed it and planted it and built buildings and barns, they're run out of town. They're run out of that country. Isn't that the story of Fiddler on the Roof, the Broadway play and movie? And they became people involved in trades that they could just pick up and take with them. But if you want to be America First, and you say, I don't like the fact we give billions of dollars to Israel, fine, I agree with you. Isn't that funny? Coming from a Christian Zionist, I agree. I've said it over and over. And I said to Mark Mitchell, we have got to explain to these young people, your Christian or your desire for nationalism, which I define as you want America first. I hate that term nationalism because it means so many things. Hitler said it was basically the state was of primary importance. The state. Well, that's not what most traditional conservative patriots, constitutionalists think. Now, these young people today, many of them haven't even hammered out what their worldview is yet. But they need to dump this term nationalism, and they need to go to simply, I'm interested in American sovereignty, and yes, America first. That's a good phrase. We're not going to be selling our country out financially, our own people out for any country, including Israel. And that's not anti-Semitic, because we need to distinguish between the Jewish people, which are scattered all over the world, and the nation government, the national government of Israel, which I am no fan of. And I'm no fan of Benjamin Netanyahu, who turned his people over as lab rats to Pfizer, and who apparently are going to jump in with the tech bros and use Gaza and go to a digital city in Gaza. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. We have the pamphlet. We have the PDF. Go to a digital Gaza and turn it into a World Economic Forum 15-minute city type example. Maybe they are going to put a Ben Gurion port right through the middle of Gaza, making it about trade and money. And listen to what I'm about to tell you. Satan would love nothing more than to take the tech bros and their transhumanism and technocracy and merge it with unbelieving Jews who are not interested in much of anything but maybe earthly values, money, progress in their mind, and then say, look at that. It all comes down to money. And you find them falling right into this typical stereotyping of Jews, right? And then you have a 15-minute city, and you see them running around pushing this agenda, and a lot of them will have Jewish last names, and a lot won't. But don't think that Satan is not going to use this to turn more and more and more people against the Jews, which is why we have to explain to people. We're not endorsing any of that. But what you need to understand is that this is a great conflict and a desire to set the Jews up and to eradicate them so that Bible prophecies are not fulfilled. They don't come to Yeshua. They don't go from unbelief to being believers in Yeshua and Messiah, becoming great evangelists, the 144,000, Revelation 7, physically surviving, some of them, the tribulation, rolling in the millennial kingdom, and in that kingdom receiving the land covenant promises that are talked about over and over and over in the Old Testament. Yes, let's explain to the young people. We understand your frustration with the economy, with America. We understand your frustration of selling your birthright to countries around the world. But why is it we spend so much time talking about the Jews, 0.2% of the population, versus all the money we give to the Islamic world, which is 24% of the world population? And it's not the Jews flying airplanes into the World Trade Center. It's not the Jews that are going around Europe and raping people and cutting their throats. You notice that? It's Islam. And who is benefiting from this division and making it all about the Jews? Why is Nick Fuentes and these other guys not obsessed with Islam like they are with the Jews? Because it's a spiritual delusion. And I don't know who's funding some of these groups. And if I don't know that some of them even need funding. Some of them have such big audiences, they're probably able to make it on their own. But I would think that there are some of our national enemies that are funding some of this in order to destroy the America First movement. I would think Islam and Iran and other groups are more than happy to do that and take all the attention off of them while they systematically take over America. And we're worried about some of the folks in America, the 0.2% of the world population, Jews, versus the 24% that want to kill both the Christians and the Jews. And now we have the president of the Heritage Foundation coming out with a video. And I want to play that video when we come back from the break. Now, look, here's what I want to talk about. The issue isn't who you should interview, who you should not interview, who you should debate, who you should not debate. Because I know some of these people, they are free speech absolutists. Fine. I am not afraid to debate the issue. I do think as Christians, we have to be very careful not to be involved in spiritual enterprises and platforming people or interviewing people and acting like we somehow have some kind of common ground we can find. No, I'm not interested in that. But I have no problem debating people. And I have no issue with Tucker Carlson interviewing a lot of different people and debating them or questioning them. The problem I have, and Tucker's free to do what he wants. I am not for the cancel culture, okay? I am not for the cancel culture. And I'll tell you that will not go over well with young people. It will only make us look petty, small, and weak, and that we have positions we cannot defend in the arena of ideas, and therefore they must go around silencing people. We don't want to do that. So I don't have to agree with what certain people do, like Tucker, platforming or interviewing, however you want to describe it, someone like Nick Fuentes. My issue is he never seems to want to interview a Brandon House or an Andy Woods or a Dr. Rob Lindstedt or an Olivier Melnick or a Arnold Fruchtenbaum. And then he says that the worst people of all are the Christian Zionists. I just hate those people. Well, why don't you interview one of us? I know why you don't, Tucker, because you're as dumb as a box of rocks, and I would eat your lunch. I would absolutely prove that you are the fool that you are. Romans 1, I would eat your lunch. I would destroy you if you interviewed me live. You would be a little girl in the corner crying when I got done debating you. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Call me when I'm on the air. I mean, these are people I work with day in and day out. They call me when I'm on the air. I just said to one of them in a voice text, I've been up since 5:15 this morning. You've had from 5:15 until 1 o'clock to call me, but you wait till I get on the air. So the Heritage Foundation president has come out and put out a statement. I want to play it and get a response from Dr. Andy Woods. Listen to this from the president of the Heritage Foundation. It's a group I've known about since I was a child, right? Here we go.
Say on this in the coming days, but today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic.
100% agree.
And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned.
100% agree. So far, so good.
My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always.
I don't have a problem with that.
When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology.
100% agree with that.
But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington.
100% agree with that as well, even if those mouthpieces happen to be people that are paid for lobbyists for said government, even if that's the Israeli government. You can disagree. That's not anti-Semitism. Everything up to now, I agree with.
The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support. And we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation.
Okay, now we're starting to have a problem. A close friend. What do you mean by that? Are you willing to call him out? Are you willing to disagree with him? Are you willing to debate him? Are you willing to set up debates with other people like myself and Tucker Carlson? Because you said you're all about debate. You said you want to defend the truth. But here lies the problem. Tucker Carlson is just spewing lies and never wants to have someone on to present the truth. Now, that doesn't mean we run around and cancel Tucker Carlson. And it doesn't mean the Heritage Foundation has to stop talking to him or having some kind of friendship with him to influence him. But don't act like you are somehow interested in debate and defending truth if you're not willing to call him out when he has people on that he interviews, but he doesn't push back or offer the alternative view of the people he has just trashed, like the Christian Zionists.
The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing...
Wait a minute. The venomous coalition, isn't he the one doing that? He says it's a venomous coalition sowing division. I'm sorry. Tucker is the one with the poisonous tongue causing division, and he's going to destroy the America First movement. So this is where this guy goes off the rails.
The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right.
No, not when your friends on the right get money from Qatar. Okay, you went from sounding really intelligent to sounding really stupid. Romans 1, stupid, foolish, vain, useless, compromised, afraid, timid. I don't know. Pick your definitions and terms. You're doing great up until the point you wanted to act like the people calling out Tucker are somehow the ones sowing division. And that somehow we're the ones attacking Tucker. Tucker's the one calling the Christians, Zionist Christians, the one he hates the most. And how do you know, again, that your enemies on the left aren't funding a lot of this to destroy the coalition?
I disagree with and even abhor things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either.
Who says it is? Now you're putting up straw men. I've never called for Nick Fuentes to be canceled.
When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have
That's exactly right. And that's the point. There's not enough debates going on. And I don't see the Heritage Foundation sponsoring such debates with people like myself and Andy Woods and others. So right now, this guy's blowing an awful lot of smoke.
success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left.
You mean the vile ideas of the left that have infiltrated the right, which are your friends who you don't want to call out and don't want to debate?
As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first.
And that's exactly what I'm doing when we have people who are enemies, foreign and domestic, doing the bidding of Islam. But this guy apparently doesn't get it.
That's where our allegiance lies, and that's where it will stay.
Yeah, and you know what you just said? A lot of nothing. And you're getting ripped online, and people are done with you, and they should stop supporting you financially, because that's one of the dumbest things I've heard in a long time. You were going fine until you took this other route, because you're being hypocrites. This is where you should say, we will sponsor debates. We will be presenting both sides, because robust debate is how we hone our positions and convince others in the arena of ideas. What you seem to just simply say is, we're not going to listen to anybody that's upset that we keep partnering and platforming people like Tucker Carlson. And if you are upset with us, then you're against the First Amendment and you're divisive. This guy should be fired. I wouldn't give a dime of money to the Heritage Foundation. I pray they collapse financially. That's my prayer. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods. Hello, Dr. Woods.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, a big setup. What do you make of all this?
Well, it's almost as if the direction these guys want to take MAGA. I mean, I've heard all this stuff before from Pat Buchanan. I mean, that goes back to 1992, 1996. I mean, Pat Buchanan was saying all this kind of stuff back then. And the conservative movement, completely rejected that. So we don't want to go that direction. And somehow any type of deference or help for Israel is looked at with suspicion. I mean, I guess you would have to throw out Nixon, who helped Golda Meir in the middle of the night as she gave him a phone call in the midst of the Yom Kippur War. I guess we'd have to throw out Harry Truman, who was among the first, if not the first, to acknowledge the newborn state of Israel. And then we'd have to throw out George Washington, who, after visiting the Toro synagogue, wrote to them the same day a famous letter that's been cited in about 4 Supreme Court cases, where he said the Hebrews, the physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, will be able to sit under their own vine and fig tree in the newborn United States, and none shall make them afraid. In other words, you can worship here as you want, and you're not going to be persecuted here as you've been persecuted everywhere you've gone in the diaspora, the worldwide dispersion. So these are the things the conservative movement used to believe in. And now all of a sudden Pat Buchanan came along and acted like what Nixon and George Washington and Harry Truman did, was some kind of challenge to America first. And if you just give history enough time, it gets more ridiculous. Here comes the Heritage Foundation, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I mean, they sound a lot like what Pat Buchanan was saying, in the 1990s. So to me, it fits just a theme that the world will turn against Israel in the last days. When Zechariah made that prediction in chapter 12, verse 3 and chapter 14, verse 2, he didn't say, well, it's just the left that will turn against Israel, or it's just the non-Christian nations that will turn against Israel. He said all nations will turn against Israel, And here you're seeing this Pat Buchanan mentality infiltrating the left and the right. And so that's what I think of.
And this is the same Pat Buchanan that a very, very young Tucker Carlson took issue with on the Washington Journal C-SPAN many years ago. Listen to this, guys.
Why he's being criticized. It's perfectly valid to question America's relationship with Israel. Israel has a lobby. It's perfectly fair, as far as I'm concerned, to beat up on Israel's lobby. But I don't think that's the reason that Buchanan is being labeled an anti-Semite. It's this kind of, as I've said, this relentless bringing up topics related to Judaism. I mean, famously, Pat, always beats up on Goldman Sachs, but never Morgan Stanley. I mean, it's really hard to. There is no point at which Pat Buchanan has held a press conference and said, I really don't like the Jews. I think they're a sinister force in America. But I think, and it took me years to come to this position. I mean, I'm not throwing the term anti-Semite around. But you reach a point when you say, well, gee, here's a guy who has gone out of his way to defend Demjanjuk and other accused Nazi war criminals, who's constantly attacked Israel, who's attacked American Jews for supporting Israel unduly, who's implied that American Jews push America into wars in which non-Jews die. There really is, and again, I'm not hysterical on this subject, but I do believe that there is a pattern with Pat Buchanan of needling the Jews. Is that anti-Semitic? Yeah. I mean, after a while, you conclude it is, in some sense, anti-Semitic. I mean, Pat Buchanan obviously has a lot of personal and affectionate relationships with people who are Jewish. So on a personal level, perhaps he's not. But on a different, maybe thematic level, I think he probably is.
Doesn't that sound like he's arguing with himself now?
Well, I mean, he's become, the Pat Buchanan that he condemns. And almost everyone on his show, he comes on, masquerading as an objective journalist, but it's obvious he asks leading questions and he has certain kinds of guests. I mean, he has the guitar player, John Rich, who tries to link the Scofield Bible to the, Rothschilds and the Illuminati. He has on there Munther Isaac, who's a well-known replacement theologian, Christian, Palestinianist, as I like to call him, and others have called him. He's got on there the nun with the mustache, allegedly connected to Stephanopoulos. And it's just, and now we have Nick Fuentes. I'm sure I'm leaving someone out, but it's obvious he's engaged in this parade of horribles, as I call it, because he's trying to promote a particular view. And the particular view he's promoting is the same view that he was condemning in that C-SPAN clip that you just played, relative to the anti-Semitism of Pat Buchanan. And so, I agree with Tucker on a lot of different limited government things, but he's obviously gone in a direction here that the conservative movement has never embraced. And so shame on the Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
The heart of my dad was a conservative. I remember getting all kinds of, periodicals, journal articles, mailings from the Heritage Foundation regularly. That used to be like bread and butter conservatism.
100%.
But they're taking a turn here that's unacceptable.
When we come back, I want to play a couple clips we've had to edit and clean up of Nick Fuentes, and who claims he's, representing a lot of young people to the point he could decide if J.D. Vance becomes the Republican nominee in Iowa or not. We'll be right back.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Hey, would you call and leave a voicemail for us to play on the air for some special programming we have coming up on what our broadcast and ministry has meant to you? I just got a text, actually, from a longtime friend named Mitch, and he just said, I'm doing your Revelation study. Most excellent. Love your hermeneutics and eschatology. You spend time setting it up, not just the scripture by itself. Not like you're busy and can't wait for Daniel and Ezekiel. He's excited about my teaching on those two books. We'd love to hear a testimonial from you. If you could call our voicemail and leave it, and we can air it on the program with some special programming coming up. 901-468-9357. Some of you have done that. Thank you. We'd love to hear from more of you, if you would, how our broadcast ministry has blessed you, helped you, maybe how you believed something at one time, then heard the broadcast where we brought the scripture and facts and history and changed your opinion, or that of your spouse or your children. Maybe you became a believer listening to the broadcast. 901-468-9357, 901-468-9357 to leave your voicemail. So I said to Mark Mitchell today, I said, look, the issue is that we should be running around trying to cancel people. We should be wanting to debate them. The problem is, apparently some of these guys that claim they're so for free speech are too chicken to interview us, number one. Number two, then when people criticize them, we're called divisive, and that we're too busy attacking people on the right, not the left, as you just heard the stupid comment from the guy at the Heritage Foundation. Well, apparently he doesn't understand the tactics of war, which is the long march through the institutions, Herbert Marcuse and cultural Marxism, and the Frankfurt School. And those institutions include media, education, conservative organizations, Christian broadcast networks, publishing houses, seminaries, colleges, etc., and think tanks. So maybe he clearly doesn't understand the tactics of the left that he wants us all to spend our time attacking. Maybe, sir, the left has infiltrated the right, and that's why we're warning, because the people outside the camp are not as dangerous as the people inside the camp. Or perhaps you're educated beyond your intelligence and can't understand that. Now, when it comes to Nick Fuentes, we need to understand, why is he so popular? That's the point of today's program. What is it we need to be doing better in explaining our position? I am all for your position on America First. I agree with you. We should not be giving billions and trillions of dollars to foreign governments. I agree. We can criticize the government of Hungary. We can criticize the government of the EU, those governments. Israel, yes. But can we please not confuse the Jewish people and murdering Jews on the street, killing them in their synagogues? Can we please not confuse them with the Israeli government, of which many of them protest in the street and can't stand? Any more than most of us really have that much affection for our own federal government. This is the point. And this is the problem when you have people like Ted Cruz being the spokesperson for Christian Zionism. And he doesn't make these distinctions, which then confuses people, and rightly in many ways makes them angry. Because all of a sudden you're setting up some kind of earthly government is holier than thou that deserves all of our money and allegiance. No. So we need to learn, why is this young man popular? But do you understand what it is he's saying? Because a lot of folks don't. They just hear that he doesn't want us bowing down to Israel. He doesn't want us giving money to Israel. He doesn't want a group of people who have been paid by Israel, according to them, doing Israel's bidding over America's. Now, those are all legitimate concerns. But much of that is taken out of context. And again, we're worried about 0.2% of the world population versus the 24% that wants to kill us, make us convert, and rape our daughters and granddaughters and breed Muslim babies out of them. What a great distraction. But this Nick Fuentes is saying a lot more than the few things that you could say, well, I don't think we should be sending a bunch of money to Israel. I don't think we should be kowtowing to Israel. I don't think we should put Israel over America. That's not all he's saying, folks. It's far more vile than that. And he's doing it as a guy who wants to promote a Christian nationalism, if you will. Listen to a little bit of this. Here we go.
About the fundamentals of our worldview and what it would look like to build a society based on our distinct worldview, which is different from the left, different from a godless, atheist, constructivist, liberal worldview. And what does that look like? Does that look like a society where you have gay marriage and birth control and contraceptives and legal, ubiquitous internet pornography and all the rest, but transgender kids aren't playing in girls' water polo? No, that's not what it looks like. It looks like a society where women don't have the right to vote. And it looks like a society where boys and girls get married as teenagers and start having kids, and they don't use birth control, and they don't use contraceptives, and they have big families and a high birth rate. And it looks like women wearing veils at church. And it looks like women not being in the workforce. And it looks like mothers raising their kids. And it looks like pornography being banned. And homosexuality and transsexuality, as well as heterosexual sodomy, as well as fornication and adultery being shamed by the society, and maybe in some places, in some jurisdictions, regulated by the law.
Yeah, okay. That sounds pretty much like the Reconstructionists, the Dominionists, the New Apostolic Reformation, the Doug Phillip types. And when people hear that, they're like, oh, I can't disagree with that. Well, I'm not for a theocracy. And this idea, well, we don't want women voting and women don't need to get educated. I mean, this sounds like a Christian Taliban, right? Right? But it gets worse than that. Then he starts talking in ways that are so offensive about minorities and Jews and praising Hitler and that Hitler was a cool guy. I've watched so many videos. I got up at 5:15 this morning. 5:15. Which some of you say, that's nothing. I do that every day, Brandon. I know some of you farmers, I know some of you farmers do. But I generally stay up kind of late, and then it was a very short night. But I was up early doing research because I'm so distressed about this. Because we as conservatives, most importantly, we as Christians, we need to figure out how we are missing this generation. What are we not saying to them or explaining to them so that they believe the lies of this guy, which it may resonate with them in some areas, but then they're like, do you really understand what he's saying? Now, you guys have clearly edited all these, right? All right, here we go. Here's another one.
I saw something on Twitter. I don't even know if this is true, but something on Twitter said like, all of Hitler's girlfriends were 16 and 17. And Alex Jones, I don't even know if that's true, but if that is, that's probably why Alex Jones called Hitler a pedophile. And it's like, you should be saying the same thing about Hitler. MLK was a rapist and Hitler was a pedophile. It's like, you know what? The world's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay? The world's a little bit more complicated than you're making it out to be. Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really cool.
Okay, so Hitler
any
is
boy
cool.
knows that. Anybody?
All right, I wanted you guys to hear that twice. Hitler is really cool. Have we done a good enough job teaching our young people what the worldview, he wants to use the word worldview over and over. You heard that in the first clip. Have we done a good job teaching our children what Hitler was about? No, we have not, because we don't teach history in a lot of our schools anymore. Dr. Woods, I don't think the problem is as much Nick Fuentes as it is us. And may I say again, my favorite whipping boy, the failed American churches, other than just a handful of them. Because they too have added to this with their hyper-Calvinism, their gospel coalition, their social justice, their replacement theology, which is now a cancer infecting every denomination. And most of our pastors don't know anything much about Adolf Hitler, the Green Agenda, the Nazi ecology, how it ties back into Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the animal rights, all the things that our mutual friend, Dr. Mark Musser, has detailed. Pagan New Age occultism, Babylonian sacrifice under the trees to the Babylonian gods. The Jews were offered up as a pagan sacrifice to the Babylonian gods. They don't understand all of this. Or that Satan was using Hitler to wipe out the Jews so that we don't have the fulfillment of the Bible prophecies, which they, by the way, discount, which means they're discounting the word of God, which means they're calling God a liar. So are we shocked that people that call God a liar don't know anything about one of the biggest liars in human history, Adolf Hitler? Dr. Woods?
Well, I would say I would agree with, and put it this way. The biggest problem we have is a lack of biblical literacy.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is there's one group of people, and only one, that Israel can count on. And that's people like ourselves, dispensational Zionists. And I'm a supporter of Israel, not because I agree with every little economic decision or political decision. I agree with, and I'm a supporter of Israel because God is a supporter of Israel. And God is a Zionist.
And you don't mean the Israeli government existing today, though. You don't mean he always agrees with the Israeli government and the Israeli policies that include abortion that's pretty high, and homosexuality, and the gay parades in Tel Aviv. I want to make clear, because I don't believe God agrees with a lot of what goes on with the Israeli government, but I believe God has a plan for the Jewish people. Correct?
Right. And let me put it this way. Paul, who was given a hard time by the Israelis everywhere he went in the book of Acts, this is what he wrote in Romans 11, verse 28. He says, though at the present time they are your enemies. In other words, they were opponents of the early church. So Paul is not giving some kind of blanket endorsement to everything the Israelis did. But he made this statement. He says, though at this time they are your enemies, they are beloved on behalf of the fathers. And so I look at Israel not as they are, but what they're going to be, which is going to be eventually a totally 100% regenerated nation. And so when God recycled them back into their homeland in unbelief, 1948, it's preparatory for that great move of God. And when you look at this whole picture, you're looking at Israel not as she is. You're looking at Israel as what she's going to become. And once that work is complete, the kingdom of God, which we've been told to pray for by Jesus Christ himself, when he taught us to pray, he said, pray this way, thy kingdom come. Once that work is complete, the kingdom of God, the long-awaited kingdom of God, will manifest itself on planet Earth. So since that's the big picture, how can I do anything other than love, the Jewish people? I don't have to agree with everything they did or are doing. Neither did Paul, but he still called them beloved on behalf of the patriarchs, referring back to the unconditional covenant that God gave to the physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, called the Abrahamic covenant.
And this is what we need to be explaining to the young people, because I speak to many adults in the conservative movement who know nothing about what you just explained. They will say, well, I don't really know much about Bible prophecy and Revelation and Daniel and Ezekiel and the Old Testament. I don't know much. Well, that's the problem. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. WorldviewTalk.com or 1-866-738-3224. All right, welcome back. Now, I've called this group like a Christian Taliban for years. And to my surprise, up early today, researching clips on Nick Fuentes, who is penetrating the MAGA world, the America First world. He actually says that's what we're fighting for, a Catholic Taliban. Listen.
The court has a blueprint to revisit all those decisions and say, guess what? It's not in there. So that means that banning gay marriage is back on the menu. Banning sodomy is back on the menu. Banning contraceptives is back on the menu. And basically, we're having something like Taliban rule in America, in a good way. We're having something like a Catholic Taliban rule in America.
Catholic Taliban rule in America. Now, he is now out today. Do we have it cleaned up where he says about his group, his people, his followers can derail J.D. Vance? Do we have that, Logan? Let's play just a little bit of that, because why is this young man so popular? Now, I think it is a reaction to the feminist, cultural Marxist agenda, and they're looking for a leader. Now, Charlie Kirk's dead, and many of them are flipping to this guy. And you think that I'm overstating it? Well, then ask the young people. Spotify allowed him back on the platform. Within a day, he was the #1 podcast in the world. Okay? So Charlie Kirk is dead. Many of them are looking for another guy that will debate and argue and mix it up. And this is all, I think, in part, not only a great spiritual deception, but it's looking for something to respond to the destruction of our country by the Republican Party, the GOP, the Democrats, the cultural Marxists and Marxists and the Democrat, the Islamist, and also on the GOP side, the corporatist, the communitarians, the corporate fascists, big government, big business. And even though this guy is espousing a form of fascism, I don't even think he knows that maybe. Maybe he does. Listen to what he's saying. He's saying his group's big enough to take out J.D. Vance if he doesn't get on board with him, if he condemns him. Listen.
And I'm telling you this right now, and you need to be with me on this. You need to raise your right hand right now. If J.D. Vance condemns the Groypers, if J.D. Vance signals to the Israel First lobby that he is condemning the America First movement, then we will not vote for him, we will not support him, and as a matter of fact, we will show up in Iowa, and then New Hampshire, and then Nevada, and South Carolina to make sure that he never gets the nomination.
Okay, let's hold right there. Now, J.D. Vance, I don't think is going to turn his back on the America First movement. But America First to these guys means, I guess, you have to come on their side and start trashing the Jews? Become racist? I mean, the things he says about minorities, about black people, it's so disgusting. And one can hardly believe he has the following and that people will actually interview him and not challenge him on these things. And it makes me think, Dr. Woods, I can clearly see how somebody far more rebel-like, I mean, the epitome of a rebel, more pushing the buttons of the people at the time, someone far more spiritually energized from the demonic side, the Antichrist. If Nick Fuentes can be the #1 show on Spotify within one day, can you imagine what the Antichrist is going to do when he shows up pushing all the right buttons? Dr. Woods?
Well, I would just say the guy is not conservative.
Nope.
He doesn't represent conservative values. He doesn't represent MAGA. And he's very double standard related to countries. I mean, he's not applying a standard across the board that he wants to apply to Israel, which is the heart of anti-Semitism. And so I think a guy like that needs to be just, left to his own devices, kind of like a dog with rabies. Let him go and foam at the mouth and do his thing, but keep your distance from him, because he doesn't represent MAGA values. I mean, he's not MAGA. He's not America first. It was Iran that tried to take out the MAGA president, Donald Trump, when he was running this last time around twice. So how is getting in bed with Iran against Israel, MAGA? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, this is why Patrick Buchanan was condemned by the conservative movement in 1992 and 1996. We need to do this. We need to Pat Buchanan this guy, is what we need to do. Point out the differences, distance ourselves, and say this guy does not represent our values.
But wouldn't you also agree that it is a very, very important teaching moment for us to figure out what it is the young people are finding in this young man that makes them want to follow him, and then to do programming, podcasts, short videos, short books, to try to explain to them, look, we're not saying we should bow down to the Israeli government, send all of our money to the Israeli government, that somehow they're, quote, God's chosen government. That's not what we're saying. This is what we believe, and this is what is going on, and this is what is Satan's goal, and this is what is God's goal. Don't you think this should be causing all of us in the audience, as well as yourself and myself, to be trying to figure out how we can set young people free from the mind rot of guys like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and others?
Yes, and the reason the mind rot is going on is their minds are not hemmed in by scriptural truth. I mean, if you're dealing with a generation of biblically literate, regenerated people, they wouldn't be following this guy. They'd be saying, there's an angelic conflict going on. God's goal, promote the nation of Israel ultimately. Satan's goal, eradicate the nation of Israel. And then you just make a simple decision. What side of the ledger do I want to be on? I don't know. I'm sure you feel the same way, Brandon. But as for me and my house, we want to be on God's side on
Absolutely.
this.
100%.
So I don't lend my tongue to, perpetual attacks against Israel.
Nope. All right. Dr. Woods is andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. And I hope you'll stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up at the top of the hour on over 100 outlets nationwide with Jim Schneider, vcy.org, vcy.org. Listen, folks, we've got to do our homework. We have got to understand what are our young people listening to, what are the arguments being made, and then we need to use Scripture to destroy those arguments. That's biblical warfare. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. He goes on to say that Nick Fuentes says, when we take power, the Jews will need to be given the death penalty. I'm far more concerned about that than the non-white people, end quote. I mean, I'm going to try to play this. Hope there's no cursing. I think I've previewed this one. Here we go.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration. These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
Dr. Woods?
Well, aren't there atheists and Christ rejectors and occultic people that are non-Jews?
Exactly.
I mean, I always felt that was like a equal opportunity. These were equal opportunity sins. I mean, this is nothing short of racism. I mean, this is racism. Only the Jews are involved in these types of practices. Only the Jews are resisting Christianity. Only the Jews are involved in occultism. I mean, could you imagine if you said that about Asians, blacks, Caucasians, Hispanics? I mean, you would be rightfully labeled a racist, would you not?
Yeah.
And here, this guy just spews this stuff, and why isn't he called out for being just a carte blanche racist?
Well, the president of the Heritage Foundation just thinks Tucker is going to be our friend, and you and I are being divisive. We should spend our time talking about the left, and that we're being venomous and attacking people on the right, and we're wrong. That's what you just heard him say that when we are questioning and asking, why on earth would you interview this guy and not challenge him on these statements, number one. But number two, if the Heritage Foundation is so interested, as I said, in debate and defending the truth, why would they not set up a debate with some of us Christian Zionists?
Yeah. Well, deceptive and venomous, what do they call what we just heard?
Exactly.
And beyond that, wasn't it Tucker, I think you quoted it a little earlier, who said of all the people that he despises the most,
Christian Zionists.
It's not the Muslims or Islam or anything else. It's not Marxism. It's Christian Zionists. So isn't that rhetoric divisive? I mean, so if you're going to go after people for being divisive and you're going to react against us for rightfully reacting against that, then you're very you have a tremendous double standard.
Logan, do we have an edited clip where he's talking so horribly about black people? I mean, they're all like 7 minutes. You know who's, you see where I'm at, Logan, on my screen? I don't want to promote it to the public per se because it's a leftist group, but they sure put out the videos on this guy. You see where I'm at? Go there. They've got a ton of videos on him. In fact, they just said, if you're not aware who this guy is, here's who he is. And they provide a string of clips from him. And it's in there that he's talking about. He uses the hard N-word, okay? He's on the air using the hard N-word and talking about black people, non-white people, in the most, what I think sounds like a KKK guy. And I guess the Republican Party and some of the GOPers now and think tanks have come to the point where they think well, we're just practicing free speech talking to these people. If Hitler came back, would they sit around and have a conversation with Hitler and consider that just free speech, Dr. Woods?
Well, what's going to happen is this guy, if he's let loose, he's going to divide MAGA. He's going to divide the Republican Party because mainstream conservatism has rejected this mindset for an awful long time. And so I think the guy is actually going to end up undoing whoever our next candidate is, on the Republican side.
Well, it shows me, Dr. Woods, we have so much work to do when it comes to the hearts and minds of our young people, that this young man is followed by so many, and that so many of the questions posed to Vice President Vance the other night were coming from his followers, Nick Fuentes' followers. Those were his type of questions and his programming, and that we have to work so hard to try to clutter the minds of these young people that are buying into this. If it's like this now, what will 5 years, 10 years be like for Christians, Christian Zionists, and Jews? I mean, I can see what the tribulation is going to be like. I'm getting a glimpse right now. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.